Well, this video is a follow-up to the video, the introductory video, and it's really not the final one. In this video, I'm going to show you how to, again, use this model with selected project finance issues. Okay, there's a little thing at the beginning, and I'm covering this stuff with P sizing P50 to maximum debt. And I'm trying to put these little links here so when you get one of these files, you can see the video or go to the website and all that stuff. I don't know if that gimmick will work. Nothing really works. This video, this file, not the video, this file has semi-annual cash flows, big deal. It's no different than the last one with the annual. Anybody gets impressed with this has got to get a head examined. I have included some things that come from another sheet. And some more detailed analysis of P50 and P90 calculations themselves. And in this case, I'm going to really show you that everything is driven by what my friend Pascal does. He says whenever he gets a wind study, I don't know if he told me this or not, he probably doesn't read the damn thing. He says, what's the standard deviation to the average, is it a reasonable number? That's kind of the first thing he checks, and it's all these P99 and P90 business. It's all driven by one single, or not, well, multiple here, but if it's the 1 year, it's all driven by one single standard deviation number, and then you should drill down and figure out what kind of BS did people put in there to come up with that number, because then it drives the debt size and drives your IRRs and all that stuff, and the bid you're going to give for the project. Okay, so I put some other regular old development cost, and this is my moaning about, well, if you want to push up the cost, you do want to push up the cost with money that doesn't come out of your pocket. Then the next thing I'm really going to emphasize here is that we have some items of cost. I took this from kind of a model. But the real question is, are these costs fixed or variable? If they're fixed, when you have a decrease in production for the P99 case and a fixed cost, that's called operating leverage. You learned that in some kind of school or economics class or business class or something one time in your life. And if it's variable, it's the bankers like that a lot better, because in 2008 you would just fire everybody when your demand goes down. Ooh, that's not so good, but whatever, that's variable cost. But in wind, there are probably some costs that are fixed and some that are variable. If they're more fixed, the P99 has a bigger effect than if they're variable, and it has a lower effect. And this time I'm going to show you, I suppose, if you keep the video on, how to compute the PPA price using a goal seek. Well, that's not very complicated, really. We'll make a macro around it and all that stuff. Okay. And to get there, we'll put a different IRR in. Depending on this IRR, it might be the case that the debt to capital, now don't look at this right now. I mean, I have a tiny debt to capital, so I force the debt to capital constraint to be in place. And then we'll have a grace period and some interest rates and all of that. I suppose I'll do this now. We'll start with the operations. Always start with just megawatts, megawatt hours, and all of that. Then you can start putting in costs, the plant cost, operation and maintenance cost, PPA, get some pre-tax IRR and after-tax IRR. I don't think I put taxes in this. I didn't. Here's why I didn't. Because I did not want a circular reference, and all sorts of circular reference arise with this. This is a simple case. I'm going to show you this magic and this wonderful thing that Hetty has helped me on to make this I don't know. Today I'm calling it a parallel model with this user-defined function that will solve everything and do this almost exactly the same kind of analysis, but with all the circular references. Every single goddamn one of them. And we do the P50 sizing, the P99 sizing, and then we go to a debt repayment schedule and then some cash flow waterfall. And the reason I'm doing this is to emphasize the order of the model and to show you, this I tried to put a picture of a flowing river. I said, let's have a nice smooth flow from the assumptions down to the cash flow waterfall. I don't know which way it's supposed to go, but the model should have a smooth, obvious kind of flow to it. And that's why I don't care. You guys can all make your different spreadsheets and call it a 3-tab model or some kind of crap like that. But when you make it, just put everything in the same page, please. It's such an obvious. It's just such a pain that people have these silly rules that fast, smart, whatever they are. I use them too, whatever. So now, but before we do this, I'm going to, and then we'll put a summary page. I didn't put any inflation, but I want to go through a little bit how this P99 and P50 is actually computed. I'm going to press Control Alt C and color the sheet so we can. I really want to show you what's an input and what's not. Please use the generic macros here. So I said, here's the size of our project, and then we do some kind of power curve and get our wind study, and we get a 47% capacity factor. That means that if I take this multiplied by the capacity factor multiplied by 8,760, it gives me the megawatt hours, but I put gigawatt hours, so I got to divide by 1,000. That's the generation we get. But then, just like in solar, where you have a performance ratio and you have all of these things that can reduce the performance ratio, we do the same thing here. We put all our little factors in, and we can use the product function to just multiply this number by all of these factors, and that's our net output. And then we can compute the capacity factor as this number. We'll take it, divide by 8,760, or 8,766 if you want leap years, and we better we're going to compare that. That's in gigawatt hours, so we better multiply that by 1,000. We could have divided by 8.76, divided by the benchmark capacity, which might not be a very real number, and then you get your net capacity factor number. Now the big deal once you have this is to get the standard deviation, and I took the standard deviation. Oh, okay. I stuff on it. Oh, shit. I took the standard deviation divided by the average. So this number is this number times that number. And what I did, this is the key number, Shift Control 7 if you've got an English keypad, Control B. This thing is the number that drives everything. And it's such an important number that I said, let's make a spinner box around that number and see how this number affects the actual tariff you have to charge and how it affects the IRR you earn. But, these spinner boxes you might criticize a lot. So I said, okay, well, let's remember what the original one was, which was here. And then let's multiply that by 100. So I made a little thing, and that just resets. All this does, it's a simple little macro. Where was it? You have one line. It says, take this one is called, the range for this one is called ST underscore value, SD underscore value. This is base, and then you just make a little thing. And that's the criticism for me, rightfully so, of these little spinner boxes, is that you can't remember what the original number was. But I made a little reset button, okay? And then this number is the multiplying. And then once you have these numbers, I just put P99, P50, and all that, well, you just use this norm inverse. If I want to get the 1 year, so this is our P50 case, okay? And if I want to get the P99 case, I put NORMINV. And then you go up and you can say, I'm a financial modeler. I shouldn't have to worry about this. Well, maybe you're right. But, I'm shouting, sorry. Then you put in the mean. And then you put in the standard deviation. And then, just that fast, you can get all of the different numbers. And you can do it for the P90 case. And I hope you see, just like my friend Pascal told me, he told me a norm inverse, you put in the probability, then you put in the mean. And I should have, done it. I could have copied this even, couldn't I have? I could have pressed F4 a couple of times. No, I just keep it on 18 and leave the E. So I can get the P 10-year case. And then you can control, oops, shoot, because I didn't put I know, this has to be this one, of course. All right, and you can get all those cases this far, and now you can see, well, what's the capacity factor in the different cases, and what is this case versus the P50? This is the 1 year case. So in the P99, we only get a 28% capacity factor, which is 73%, and that's 1.36. Remember, you compare it, this is just simply that, 1 divided by that, and that's the thing you can compare. So if the P99 was DSCR was 1 and the P50 was 1.36, you could do that. Now if the P90 here had a 1.2, and you could do an evaluation, but this doesn't account for fixed and variable cost. So this is just only production. Now, here I put some random kind of variables up here. There are different things that can cause you to miss the things, and these consultant studies have all these different kind of things. These are all permanent. All of these things, they don't depend on wind going up and down. They're in a 10-year, they're in a 1 year, they're in everything. Now, I was shocked that this really works, but it really does. You take the uncertainty, we can measure the uncertainty in percent or in energy production. It doesn't matter. Okay? And then you square it. That's for this mean squared error. And then you go down and you get the sum of all of those square errors. These are all of the uncertainties. Now, I hope you're saying, how in the hell do they know that this is 5.5? How do they know this? How do they know this? I don't have time to put this in this video, but getting uncertainty in wind variability is not that hard. You've got the wind going up and down year by year. You get the standard deviation of the wind, and then you put it against the power curve and get the standard deviation of the energy production back through how many years you want. You have to do some extrapolations and all that kind of stuff. But getting these come from some expert judgment. They almost have to be. The accuracy of the anemometer, which you use a LiDAR now. Accuracy, this correlation. How do they know that has a standard deviation of this much? That's what I'm trying to emphasize. I'm trying to show you these numbers kind of come from the air. And now once you have that, then this is all of the things that are not in P90, and then you get the variability. In 1 year, they get an 8%, and even in 10 years, they can say this 10-year period is different than the next 10-year period. God knows how they get that. You'd have to have a long-term data, really, to get that accurately. And then you can square that. And then you get the, and then here, I'm sorry, after you take the squares, you then take the square root. So I did that both on an energy basis and on a non-energy basis. And then we do the same thing for 1 year, 10 years, here, 1 year, 10 year. And finally, you take, if it's the 1 year P90, you take this number, which was all the it's fixed and all the modeling errors, and you combine that with the energy variability, and you can do that on either one. And finally, you have this 11.38, which is this variability divided by the energy production. And that's what went into these numbers. So I hope it's not a mystery for you to read those wind studies anymore. Now let's go to the financial. Now let's go and do a little of the modeling. Okay, the first thing is why don't we make this, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to press Control Alt C, and instead of, I've got to rename this from tab sheet color. That's what that should be. Let's make it red. And whenever we take it from another sheet, that sometimes it does that. I thought, didn't I do this? I'm now nervous. So whenever it takes it from another sheet color, it's supposed to make it green. Okay, it did, but maybe those greens are not colorful enough. Now, I think this is the really big deal about this whole generic macro business. You can find a zillion things, and you can make the rest of the macros so easily in this one, it's not even funny. But to go and find things that come from another sheet, that's a little tricky. So here's what I'm trying to do. Here's our little spinner box, and we can now see what if we change the uncertainty of the wind and make it higher or lower, we can see what happens. Now, the next thing I did is I took the kilowatt per year for all of our operating costs, and they're pretty big because this is, and then I said, okay, well, we could take those also, and if we're using a P50 case, and I hope I put the P50 capacity factor up here. If we're using a P50 case, which is pretty high capacity factor, if we're using a P50 case, we can just convert that use that capacity factor to convert that to a cost per megawatt hour. And you should be completely, know how to automatically go from kilowatt per kilowatt hour to per kilowatt year to per kilowatt hour. You just take the capacity factor, change it from kilowatts to megawatts, change it from year to hours, blah, blah, blah. And then you can make a little macro. And on this one, I'm trying to show you, because I've already emphasized this, that we're going to take there's a range name for the cells. And we're going to make them all true, all false, or some of them true and some of them false. So that's just a cells command with a loop. And what you do is, if I want, right now they're all variable. If I press all fixed, I'm going to put a little true. If they're mixed of fixed and variables, I can change them. Okay, let's leave it like that. And then I think what I'm going to do now, if you use this case, if I also put the macros here. So this is why I had this. If I change that to fixed or variable, and if we're using a P50 case, it has no effect, but it will have a very big effect on it will have a very, very big effect once we change it to the P90 case. That's what I wanted to tell you. And now let's put a little bit of inflation in here. Okay, so once we have that inflation, good. And let's change this debt to capital ratio. Now, I'm not going to go through the summary page business, but we'll leave it. Do you see what happened? It just changed the debt size. Now the debt size is driven by a P99 case. So I guess I'm doing this a little bit too quickly for you. So let's make it let's make it so this never occurs, basically. What we could do is put a big development fee in or whatever the owner's cost to really make it adjust like that. But if you then would reduce this uncertainty, okay, then, and oh no, I better make a goal seek too. And it looks like I didn't attach the goal seek things. Excuse me. We'll do that again. Okay, so that's a little bit of what we'll look at. I had to interrupt myself. Then we'll put this kind of stuff we just talked about, where we always start with debt size, then go to these are the alternative ways we could get debt size. 3 different ways I put here. Then the debt funding, then the repayment, then the interest rate, then the covenant sweeps, which I don't even have here. I just want to remind you that that's the order, and that's the order of which the model should generally be. So I put some capacity factors in, and then I said, okay, there's a 1-year standard deviation in this. I just use our norm inverse for our capacity factors. And then, of course, we need 3 numbers. So if we take the, perhaps I should have inserted a line here, shouldn't I have? So if we take the, right, the hours in the period, maybe I should have put it here, and it almost would have been better to, excuse me, to just emphasize that's what we're doing. Let's put the hours in a separate line. Okay. So, excuse me, I have to remember what we kind of did. So if I take the capacity, which it has a switch, a true false switch to turn it on and off, multiplied by this, that gives me megawatt times hours, megawatt hours, but we don't produce for every single hour of the year, so we put the P99 capacity factor in, and that came from this norm inverse. Okay, I hope you know how to do some of these now, and then we might use a different case. So I put a little index, a little 3 cases, a code number of 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to bother with this one right now, because generally we want to leave it at the P50 case, but we want to size the debt from the P99 or P90 or P50 or maximum debt to capital. That's the whole point. Whew. I got to calm down. And then we have our construction costs. And then I said, okay, we could take this one and let's just use a sum product. And we have to multiply. So let's take this one. If it's fixed, let's take this one times this one. If it's variable, take this one times this one, a sum product. Okay, and when you use a sum product with a true and a false, you have to put the little multiplication thing in there. And we have this one. So if it's all fixed, that's our little macro. This stupid thing and then it's all fixed. If it's all variable, it's all there. And if it's mixed, fixed, and variable, we put both of those in. That's the implication of that's going to be important. Then I put a inflation rate, and we get our inflated cost. If it's again fixed, they're all fixed cost. If it's variable, we put all variable costs in. I don't know why it took a little bit long. And now we'll compute our PPA price. So we'll just take the PPA price, put an inflation in, nothing complicated, and multiply our inflated price by the generation and get our revenues. No problem here. And then we can, in our case, I haven't put anything, if it's P50 case, we can then say here's our IRR, and then we put a target IRR in and compute the NPV, and this says NPV out, and we should press Shift Control M to get rid of my little stuff, and then make a little macro and call it a goal seek, and press OK, and then we go to data, and we go to what if analysis, and we go to goal seek, and we set that NPV to 0 by changing the input for the PPA price up here. Here it is. And that was called price. So remember, it's NPV underscore out and price. And then you stop recording that, and let's attach that to this macro. Let's assign macro to this one and make it new. Oh, no, let's assign it to goalseek. Excuse me. Ugh. You know, it's hard making these videos because I'm under pressure. I don't know why. You might give me a dislike or something and it break my heart. Okay, here's this thing, and we'll put range, and we put NPV underscore out, and then we'll put by changing the price, because I remembered what those variables were. Okay, and now I can run the... Oh, did I not assign it? I don't think I pressed OK. Another mistake. So I should have pressed OK here. I pressed edit instead. Okay. I don't know why Excel changed that, by the way. So this is, and then we'll do the same thing with the equity IRR. See, it's good I did that. Which is the one I just did. I hope it's this one. Okay. Okay, that gives us now it's more interesting. And if we, again, right now, the P50's instrumental. If we go down, it'll be the P99. And then let's see this. Look at the equity IRR, and if I keep putting a higher and higher standard deviation, look at what happens to the equity IRR. And I am moaning here. The difference between a 1% or 2% IRR is so gigantic. When all these people say, I need double-digit IRR, whatever, even though you could never earn double digits on stocks over long term and you have no risk, this vagueness of the IRR is so disgusting, really. That's the next video I'm going to make, by the way. Okay? But that was an illustration of how important this P99 business really can be. All right. And so, where was I? Oh, shit. And then we put, now, this is what I did last time, and this time we have to make a P50 case, and I said, let's make a P1, help me with this, and then he never called me back, but it was really cool. He did this for me, somebody else did this for me, and we make a P50 case, megawatt hours. In the P50 case, in the P99 case, the megawatt hours are a lot lower, right? And then we take the price minus the variable cost, not the fixed costs, and then we get the margin in the P50 case. Nothing that dramatic, is it? And then we can subtract the fixed cost separately. So now if it's all fixed instead of variable, we'd have a lower margin, a different margin, but we'd subtract fixed costs. And then we get the EBITDA for the P50 case. Okay, and then we get the CFADS. Now, I put that differently because there are taxes, interest, income, working capital changes. All of those things drive you crazy with the circular references, and that's the simplification in this model, and it's not a minor issue. And I'm going to make a third video that shows you how you can solve every single one of these questions. Now, once you have that, it's the same kind of thing where we have a little index factor where we increase this. In this case, did I have just a 1-year construction period? We start here, and then we take the sum product where you take the cash flow and divide it out, and you get, here's the debt from the P50. Now notice, I'm repeating myself, but I don't care. In P90, this all came from the production in the P90 case. Now, unfortunately, I wish this was simpler, but I can't really. You have to have these 3 different numbers in the model somewhere. Once you have these 3 different models, this is all of the debt sizing. A big part of the model is the debt sizing. And then you have the same kind of margin against that production, and the fixed costs are there whether you have the higher production or lower production. So they magnify the effect of all of this, and then you do the same thing and get the CFADS, the debt service, the present value of the debt service. So far, the P90 is driving this in this case rather than the P99. And then you can go do exactly the same thing for the P99, and we have a really big, gigantic effect on the P99. Now, before I think the calculations, I hope, they're not straightforward if you've never done this before. I'm not claiming that. But if I would put a higher DSCR in the middle one, in the P90 case, let's put it not that high. How about this one? Okay, then I'm not sure this will work. But in this case, we have this debt in the, maybe I should kind of circle this. This debt in the P50 case, shift control 7. This case in the P99 case, oops, and in this case, now let's before I do that, maybe let's kind of reset the standard deviation. No, I didn't put a reset button here. Where did I put the reset button here? Okay, and right now, right now, let's see which case. It should be the P50 case, probably. Here's 132 dead in the P50, 109, 102. And then I'm having some problems. Maybe I'll have to increase this just to cheat. And then let's put the standard deviation upstairs, a little up. And then if we put the standard deviation, that's the one number that drives everything, or the debt at least. And then we have our debt size this time. Excuse me, this is the debt to capital. Okay. P90 is 103. Oh, and P99 is still driving it, but whatever. I'm going to stop. I don't know why I couldn't make it get to the P90, but whatever. Okay, then we go through. Now, once we have that, I think you need there is another problem. Oh, shit, this problem, and I've got to fix this. This is my heady problem. She's not a problem. She's the best. But she says, if you drive this with the debt to capital, so if we would put a smaller debt to capital in here, then and I think right now this. So let's put a smaller debt to capital in here. Come on. Finally. How do we sculpt the debt? And I just sculpt it kind of like you would sculpt it if you had the regular kind of flat DSCR, but I use a higher DSCR. And so what you do is you decide, well, I'm going to use the P50 case because we picked the P50 case. And to sculpt the debt, you use this LLCR. I'm not going to go through this right now because number one, it's explained elsewhere. Number two, I really have to fix it because it's not really a flat DSCR. It can be different. So then you can get your debt schedule and put your interest cost in and all of that, and finally have a cash flow waterfall and put the dividends in and all of that. But I hope I've kind of shown you the issue. The big deal is keeping this separately, understanding the importance of the P90, and then we can kind of do this. Now, I suppose I'm not even gonna show you that. I'll put a goal seek for the no, we have to do that. Let me pause the video for a minute. Now, let's say you want this I just made a goal seek for the equity IRR. It was exactly the same as the project IRR. I made NPV calculation where we used the target rate and took the NPV and made this equal to 0 by changing the price. And I didn't want you to have to watch me make some errors and all that stuff. So if somebody claims I need double-digit equity IRR, how stupid that is. It gives me the willies. Or if somebody's in Africa and they said, oh, we have political risk. Oh, no, 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 no. We need a really, really high IRR. Let's put a really high IRR. And then right now, the debt size, this is because it's so high. The debt size is probably going to be with a debt to capital always when we have such a high one. Let's put a really high debt to capital ratio in, or pretend we have a bunch of development fees or something. Okay, I can't even get it, so I'm going to have to put the target lower, and then we'll make another goal seek. Okay, now it's set based on the P99. Now let's just pretend for a minute that our consultants gave us a much lower number, and right now the tariff is right here. Let's press Shift Control 7. That's the tariff right here. Okay, and we get a much higher IRR if this standard deviation is lower. I'm trying to show you that it really, really does matter. Okay, and then I push the goal seek, and let's see that price will go down if we get a lower standard deviation. Not that much, but okay, so you got to bid, that's the whole point of it. Or the IRR goes different. Now let's go the other way. Let's say the wind study was really, really negative and we had a really high standard deviation. Okay, I don't know. Probably this is not so crazy. Maybe it is. This is, okay, Pascal would tell me if it's so crazy because he sees so many wind studies. And then we put this goal, and now we need a 44 price to get the same IRR. And if let's do it one more time. I'm sorry. Let's put this one. Let's do a goal seek. Now it's still coming from the P99. And now let's put a much lower standard deviation in here. Okay, so we're starting with 47. And then we get down to 44. So it could make a difference. That's good enough for this video. The next video, this is kind of one of 3. The next video shows you how to do all of these things. Wouldn't it be nice? I hope you're saying, wouldn't it be goddamn nice if I could do this whole thing and I could even get this heady issue solved, and I could do this all without the stupid copy-paste disaster, or even worse, the iteration button click that doesn't even allow you to do a goal seek. How can you press one button and do the whole thing and put refinancing in? And that's the next video. But I've got to take a break. This is hard. Whoops.